story lovers and storytellers, and welcome to another episode of Once Upon a Storytime.
Hello, I'm Andreas, and I'm your co-host.
And I am Sarah, and for once we're sitting in the same room together. This is awesome. You can't tell that I'm excited, can you?
Absolutely amazing to be able to record in the same room. And you won't get that Berkey telephone-esque sound, so that is good.
Yes, it is, definitely. Today's topic is Aesop's Fables. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with all of you because I believe in honesty and it's always good for people to be honest. I thought that this was going to be a really fun and exciting topic. Guess what?
It's not.
Yeah. So, first up, there are so many of these stories, and it takes time just going through all of them, to the point that I actually didn't manage to get through all of them. I managed to get through about half as a concerted effort, but most of them are just so short and just... Yeah. However, we're going to try our best. This may be a bit of a shorter episode, surprisingly enough. But to start with, let's actually talk about Aesop.
I thought we were doing the whole what have we done since...
Oh, yeah, sorry. We're introducing a new segment. What have we done storytelling-wise or story-related-wise since the last time? Let's see.
We have been looking into adventure games for a coming episode.
Which should be quite fun.
Definitely. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good topic. We're definitely excited about that one.
And it's definitely going to be a longer episode because we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Other things, we went and saw Shazam the other day.
Which was good. I liked it. Yeah. Sweetheart, do you want to say?
It was a bit problematic for me, but It was quite dark. If an 11-year-old movie has movies that looks like something that comes from Ridley Scott's Alien.
Yeah. The monsters were quite graphic, and although I don't really react to that kind of level of graphicness, Andreas does. So we are hoping to go and see something in the next couple of days before I fly back to Bath and cry my eyes out. But it was still a fun film, and it's definitely if you don't get triggered by monsters looking like Ridley Scott's Aliens, then or Call of Cthulhu-esque monsters with tentacles, then I'd recommend going to see it.
Yeah, yes. I guess you're more sold on this than I am.
Probably yes.
So, let us return to Aesop.
Yes. So, who was Aesop? Some people say that he lived in Greece in the... some people say that he lived in Greece in the BCs. Some people say that he was part of Roman culture. Other people say that he didn't actually exist at all, and all these fables are just collections of stories that people have done in order to illustrate a point.
Which is a bit of the fact of the certain exegetical research.
Yes.
If you look into Bible, the study of history of the Bible, for example, you can find similar arguments.
But some of obviously there are some relatively famous ones. The two that I think most people know of, obviously, are the are of The Hare and the Tortoise and The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Not
the Dog and the Shadow
and the
must be mentioned in this.
Definitely.
While doing research for this episode, I also found a British composer named Bob Shilcott who has made choral pieces of 5.
Oh, nice.
I don't remember which now on the top of my head, but you can go in and look for them on Spotify or your preferred streaming service.
Yes, definitely.
So that's a recommendation if you want. And it's really beautiful pieces with tight, dense harmonies. So published by Oxford University Press.
Of course.
Which is always a good matter of quality.
Yes, definitely. Excuse me. Shall we talk a little bit about about some of the stories? I did find one that I was one or two that I was interested in. The first one being it was something like The Cart Owner and Hercules. So the basic story goes that a man was driving his cart and it got stuck in some mud. Rather than trying to pull it out himself, the owner of the cart prayed to Hercules to come and rescue him from his plight. Hercules turned up, looked at him and said, "Look, mate, please note I am paraphrasing, obviously. Look, mate, if you're going to pray to me, actually have a decent reason. You didn't even try to pull that out. Next time, pull it out, because otherwise I'll smite you," or something along those lines. And then he disappeared again.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that it's short and sweet and to the point, but it's very much like, if you don't do
your part.
Yeah, if you don't do your part in it, if you don't try and do anything before running for help, then you're kind of wasting people's time. In some ways, it's actually quite an interesting point, because it's like, if you excuse me, if you have, bear with me, if you have something that needs to be done, don't try and get other people to do it first. At least make a go of it and attempt to do it before you start. Start trying to get other people to do it, because then once people realise that you're not willing to do it yourself, they won't do it for you.
No, that is something I almost live by. Never do something someone expects you to do.
Yeah.
Because I've heard this story. There was a Swedish artist. He was renting a house out in the archipelago. Well, he had cutted the grass.
Okay.
And then the house owner came by. And he said, "Why did you cut the grass? Now everyone will expect it to be cut this way every week." He learned a lesson from that. Never do what you're not asked for to do.
I think sometimes you can do stuff that people don't necessarily ask you to do as a sign of just being nice to somebody. But that doesn't mean you can be a pushover. I remember, and I'm not naming names here deliberately, I remember someone who I used to know, considered her to be a friend at the time, still kind of vaguely do, and she asked to borrow some money. I said, okay, that's fine, as long as you pay me back. So she was like, oh, yeah, I'll pay you back, not a problem. I never got the money back. I never lent her any money again, surprisingly enough. She did ask a few other times, and I was like, no, I'm sorry. The interesting thing was she didn't pay me back, and then she called me, and then she asked me again. The second time she asked me was because she needed to pay somebody else back and didn't have any money to pay him. Granted, I never actually pushed the issue of her paying me back, but again, like I said, I never gave her money again because I knew that if I did, I'd never get money back from her.
Yeah. That's the sense morale of this whole thing. And what I think is interesting with the fables is that they are so concrete in their sense morale. For example, the dog and the bone.
The dog and the shadow.
Yeah.
Yes. If I remember correctly, that story is a dog had a bone in his mouth and he was crossing a bridge over a river.
A stream.
Yes, a stream. And he looked down. He saw another dog with a bigger, juicier bone. So he dropped his bone into the river to get the other bone, and in so doing, he lost both the bone and the he lost the bone because it either sank or it got washed away, and then I don't know if he actually realised. Oh, here we go. Bingo. A dog crossing a bridge over a stream with a piece of flesh in his mouth, wasn't necessarily a bone but still, saw his own shadow in the water and took it for that of another dog with a piece of meat double his own in size. He immediately let go of his own and fiercely attacked the other dog to get his large piece from him. He thus lost both, that which he grasped at in the water because it was a shadow, and his own because the stream swept it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that story is very much don't go after something that looks better because there's a high chance that it might not actually be real.
Yeah. It's like you normally say, the grass is never greener on the other side.
Always greener. Yes. The grass
is everything is not gold that...
all that glitters is not gold.
Yeah.
Yes. Something may look better and brighter and more fantastic and so forth, but that doesn't always mean that it is.
No. And it's the same thing I heard from... There was a Swedish author. He had been actor. He had been married to the same wife for 50 years. And they asked him in the paper, why have you stayed with this woman? And he said, every time I go to bed, I see the stretch marks on her belly. That reminds me of the pregnancy of our 4 kids and our entire life together. That is the beauty of staying with someone. That you see that you have each other so strongly.
Yeah.
That you don't have to seek for another.
It's a beautiful thing.
He saw in the small things to see the quality of life.
It's amazing. And I think so often nowadays, people nowadays, I know that I may be making generalizations, but people nowadays will always chase after the next best thing. And actually, I'll be honest, it's not always the next best thing.
No.
I would rather have something that is going to last, something that is going to impact the rest of my life, for example, getting married, than have like a fleeting affair or something along those lines, because I think the testament is very much to the testament is very much to spend, like, something that lasts, in my mind, will always outweigh some fleeting thing, like, for example, Domino's.
Yeah.
I would much rather have
a pizza made with love.
Yeah. And pineapple, because pineapple goes on pizza. Comment below if you agree with me. And apparently you don't agree with me.
No, because I'm allergic to pineapple.
Of course you are. Yes. So...
The thing is that there is also this Swedish songwriter, Totte Wallin. He has made several albums. And on one of his, he wrote, "We get ourselves bigger house, bigger car. But where are we going to have the canoe? The sailing boat, windsurfing equipment, the ice skating shoes." Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like... I think there's something to be said of these stories in modern times, because people forget that things can be so much simpler, but at the same time, I think sometimes we make them complicated. A bit too complicated at times.
Definitely in this postmodern era.
Yeah, definitely.
We complicate things unnecessarily, believe me.
We recently watched The Emperor's New Groove. It's a really good film. You should see it. It's totally underrated.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the bits in it that you just reminded me of is, spoilers, is Yzma, who's the main antagonist, says, "I will, now how am I going to kill, now how am I going to get rid of Cusco?" She's like, "I know, I'll turn him into a flea, and then I'll put that flea in a box, and put that box inside another box, and then I'll mail it to myself. When I get it, I'll smash it with a big hammer." Overcomplicated much?
Yeah.
And then she realises that she's got a poison to kill people, and she's like, "Oh, that could do," which I really like, because it's just like, it's that over the topness, but it's true. Some people will go to that length. Like, it's like they make things overly complicated when actually there are probably simpler ways to do it.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is always fun.
People tend to overcomplicate stuff in this age.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Talking of overcomplicating things, shall we talk about the Hare and the Tortoise?
Yeah.
Right. Do you want me to summarise, or do you want to summarise?
You can summarise.
Okay. So, Hare and the Tortoise, one of the most famous Aesop's Fables ever. There once was a hare and a tortoise. Please note, I absolutely adore this story, and I will tell you why after this. But there was a hare and a tortoise, and the hare was teasing the tortoise because the tortoise was slow. And the tortoise said, "Oh, I bet I could beat you in a race." And the hare laughed, but accepted the challenge, thinking, "I'll just show him up, it'll be fine." And the fox presided over the race. The hare started off, and he was so fast that by the time the tortoise had taken a couple of steps, he was already halfway down the track. The hare got cocky. He decided that because the tortoise was so far behind, he would take a little nap. Unfortunately, the tortoise was being slow and steady and keeping on going, and the hare fell asleep properly. By the time he opened his eyes, the tortoise was almost to the finish line. And despite the fact that the hare tried to catch up, because he wasn't that far from the end of the track, by the time he got to the end of the track, the tortoise had already crossed the line. And the moral of this one, because some of them actually state their morals, is slow and steady wins the race. If we keep going at what we're doing and keep persisting and keep just plodding along and not necessarily getting caught up in our own hubris and our own pride and our own stuff, then we will manage to not only win the race but achieve so much. And it's partly a story about tenacity, and it's also partly a story about pride goes before a fall and all that kind of stuff. But I think there can be a tendency in our society today to, if we don't get our way, we give up. Yeah. And actually, there's something to be said for being tenacious. Not tenacious D, just tenacious. But, yeah.
I also think of that in the society of today, we are in such a hurry that we don't see the small things. There is a Swedish former professor in psychology of religions named Ove Wikström. He has written a book with the title, observe this title is a free translation, The Worship of Slowness, or the happening, or the anxiety of going on a moped through Louvren.
Okay.
It's about a high-speed society and how he reflects upon how we live so fast today that we barely allow ourselves to have a break. And what this society and what this constant Gerbil wheel lead to.
Yeah.
In terms of mental illness, physical illness, that we need to stop.
Yeah, definitely.
He also went to Gardermoen once, and he saw a very interesting quote on the floor in one of the terminals.
Okay.
Are you where you are? If not, go to where you are.
I find that interesting. I mean, I very much understand the pace of society has, I think, gotten way, way faster. I remember we've become a much more media present society. I remember hearing a story from a restaurant, and a restaurant was getting complaints that by the time the food got to them, it was cold. They found tapes from when the restaurant had opened 20 years before or something like that. So they watched the tapes from back then with tapes from the more modern era. The tapes back then, they got served their food, they ate their food, they paid for their food, they left. Modern times, they came into the restaurant, they were given menus, they took selfies. They asked the person serving them to take selfies of, to take pictures of them. They included the people in the selfie, in the pictures. They then ordered. They then took more selfies. They came up and asked. They asked for all these things. Meanwhile, they're still kind of taking pictures and having fun and getting the servers to take photographs. By the time the food then arrives, they're still taking pictures or something along those lines. By the time they get to eat the food is cold. The restaurant posted a message basically saying, look, it's not our fault that the food's going cold. It's actually your fault because you're so busy promoting your media presence that your food is going cold because you're taking so many pictures.
Yeah. And this is something interesting because there is a rave club in Berlin named Berghain, which has an absolute photo forbidden thing.
That's really good.
And it's because rather that they want to keep what's inside the secret for people to experience, rather than being part of the world. Or, for example, there is a restaurant in Stockholm, when we talk about high-paced, where you basically can't photograph. Because you're eating in black.
Oh! Wow. That must be an experience.
It's because when you dim off other impressions, you experience the palate, the taste so much stronger.
We should go there.
A blacklight restaurant.
Wow.
Which is very, very interesting as a concept.
Yeah.
Because for the first time, mobile phones can't take good pictures in the dark, which means that people leave their foods at home. The thing is that I've heard similar stories from other restaurant owners all over the world that people get so busy, they even take the big system DSLRs with them.
Yep.
It's not like people would do in the old days, like, hey, I take a snapshot with my little camera. It's the whole full bang.
Yeah.
And many restaurants have actually started to react on this because they think that the food should be in center.
Yeah, which makes total sense. I mean,
I even had a set of friends who had a rule that when they went out on dinner, they stockpiled their mobile phones.
Okay.
And the first person who took up the phone had to cover the entire bill.
I like that. Yes, I like that a lot.
And I think this is a sign of the way we are eating today, that we are eating too rapid.
Yeah.
We are not allowing ourselves to enjoy the craftsmanship of a great chef. I remember us having a really nice dinner like a year ago.
Yes.
In Carluccio's.
That was just over a year ago. That's about a year and a half. When we
No, not really. It's like a year ago because
of course, yes, I remember now. Yeah.
And we had the most wonderful Italian meal.
Carluccio's is a good place.
It's the restaurant where Jamie Oliver started his career, on a side note.
Yes.
But the thing was that people were so respectful with their mobile phones.
Yeah.
They allowed the food to take its time to come in.
Yep.
We had one of our best meals as a couple there.
We had a really good time there.
They even gave us 2 glasses Prosecco for free.
Yes, which was great because it ended up because Andreas doesn't drink, so it meant that I ended up with 2 glasses of Prosecco and was like, and I'd ordered another drink, so I ended up kind of going, oh great, I've got 3 drinks. Okay, I barely got through half the Prosecco, a glass,
was okay,
which is fine. But
I had taken a sip on it at least.
Yes,
so.
Which was good.
But, I mean, in this high-paced society, we need to stop, which is how we met, actually. We met through a pit stop, a spiritual pit stop.
Yeah, we went to a retreat in Trevin, which was lovely and off-topic.
Yeah, but I mean, in this high-paced society, we need our pit stops.
We do, definitely. I think there's so many, like, there's this whole thing about self-care and well-being and all that kind of stuff. And mindfulness and all that. But there's something to be said for just going, okay, I'm not going to do anything with my phone. I'm not going to do anything with the laptop. I'm not going this particular holiday, I spent most of my time off the computer because we've barely touched it. I've spent most of my time with my phone turned off, and it's actually been really, really good because it means that I'm quote unquote, forcing myself to actually spend time with Andreas. But it
was when we met, basically, so... Yeah. We were not even out in the light at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
And what I want to come to is that in Britain, where Sarah is based normally, there have been a man named Father Christopher, which has been hosting a number of TV programs where they have done so very interesting social experience of letting high-paced Londoners go into a monastery for 30 days. And how these people have become afterwards, how they changed their life is so interesting, how it's about valuing the small stuff in life.
Definitely.
And we are so high-paced today that I believe that that's one of the reasons we see more and more people being so mentally unwell.
Yeah. Definitely.
That people don't manage. Because I read somewhere that we have gone from like an office hour,
which is 9 to 5,
to a 24/7 society.
We have. For example, I work in retail. It's great fun. Not at times. It's don't get me wrong. It's a good job. I will say that for it. But I know that, especially recently, there have been times where I've ended up almost basically strung out to my wit's end, to the point where I'm literally almost crying on tills because it's so fast and everything's so fast paced, and I find myself overwhelmed and noticing background noise, which is never a great thing. But it's worth, but I know that it's worth me kind of calming down and taking 5 minutes to literally just sit and have some water and breathe, because that actually gets me back on track. And I know that it does, because I've done it.
Yeah. And what I'm also, in Sweden, in the town where we are, there was a food store who wanted to have open very late, but actually the union said no.
Oh.
Due to the risk.
Okay.
After a risk assessment, they said no. So that store was not allowed to be open until like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
In the UK, you have food stores that are open 24/6, which is quite sick. Do people really have a need to shop groceries at 2 a.m. in the morning is my question.
Probably not, but then you've got people who suffer from insomnia, possibly because of a mental condition, who will go shopping at that time in the morning.
Or taxi drivers, for example. We have a friend to my family who's a taxi driver, and he works like very crazy hours.
Yes, I mean, my store doesn't open till midnight. My store tends to open till about 10 p.m. But which shows you how late it can go. But
we even have a store in this town that are open till 11:30.
But there's something to be said for taking time off, having days off, because having days off is a really important thing, I think.
Yeah. Like we are.
Yeah.
At the moment, we are on holiday together, even though we are having a staycation at mine.
Which is okay, because it means I get to see his hometown and learn about the place where I'm where I'm eventually going to live, which is always fun. But it's, but as well, like having normal days off is a really good thing, because it means not only can you do stuff, but you can also sit, you can relax, you can just enjoy whatever you want to do for a day or 2 days or whatever, and have a breather, which is a really important thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like this has actually turned into a kind of mental health awareness talk right now.
Yeah, but it's okay. We are having an open platform, and
yeah, that's true.
Mental health is also something so present in books and storytelling and literature, movies.
Yep. Mental health is a really important thing. Like we said at the beginning, we actually went to see Shazam, and it's about a foster kid who basically gains magical powers and turns into a superhero, which is kind of fun, but at the same time, he's a foster kid, so he's actually ever so slight. There is a certain amount of trauma there, and he's been looking for his mum for 15 years, but he ends up as part of a group home, and excuse me, and as such, he comes to realise that particular home is his family. And yes, I know that I'm doing light spoilers here, but it's an interesting film in that respect, because it's like he wants so badly to be with his mum, but
when it comes to her mum,
his mum,
she doesn't welcome him.
No. She's like, you seem to be doing okay, and I saw you before I left and was like, the police can take care of him better than the foster system can take care of him better than I can, which may or may not be true, and I'm not going to go there at the moment because that's a whole other rabbit hole, especially with the American foster system. But it's definitely something to think about, because it's like, if your own family don't
work,
if your own family don't want you, then where do you go? And that can be a really kind of traumatizing thing for a kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. Especially, I guess, the feeling of homelessness.
Definitely.
I know several people that have been through similar situations in Sweden, and I always, when I meet them, I always just feel a sense of the lack of roots.
Definitely. Anyway.
But I think we should stop here. Basically.
I think we should. I think we've talked about quite a bit. I hope everyone's enjoyed that. Feel free to post in comments or messages or anything like that about your experience, both about your experiences with, with like mental health and about all the stuff we've talked about. Feel free to send us a message. We do have a Facebook page now.
Once Upon a Story Time.
Yep. Which you should go and check out, and we're now available on all platforms. Yay!
All the major platforms.
Yes.
iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher.
Yep.
Acast, TuneIn.
YouTube, obviously. So feel free to go check us out. Anchor as well is a good place to find us.
Because there you can also record messages to us if you use their apps.
Yes. That's a good selling point. Not sponsored, by the way.
No, we are not
sponsored.
sponsored.
Not yet, anyway. Anyway, have a really, really good time. Next time
we will do.
We are not completely sure. It's either going to be top 10 top 10 adventure games, or excuse me, or a chat with Bacon and Eggs podcast, who you should go and check out, about movies, about movies in general. Whichever one it is, we will see you back here next month. Have a really, really good day. Bye!
Bye!